Wait, I need to get my notebook.
Get your notebook.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Reflect and Regret, where we watch our favorite movies and talk out of our asses. Like always, I'm Matthew.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Ariana.
And welcome back. Today, we're talking about
The Graduate.
The Graduate.
Weird movie. This movie was made in the 60s.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah?
There's a lot of up and downs.
Yeah.
One of the first things I wrote was, God, I love the 60s.
Oh my god, all the women in this movie, beautiful.
I know.
Stunning.
And they, like, it's not just them, it's how they dress, how they act.
dress. Like, everybody's fit. Like, what the heck?
Because PE was actually a thing back then. Now it's just
I mean,
sitting
PE is
around.
still a thing.
It's not as prominent.
I have a feeling it has more to do with, like, sexist stuff. Like, women had to look better.
Yeah.
Well,
And
'cause
also,
now
like,
you
more
can-
cooking. Like, women had to cook and stuff. They didn't go out to McDonald's every night like me.
So yeah, it's almost like a coming of age type of movie.
It is, yeah.
You having trouble there?
And it's like, the only really person I knew was, what's his name? Dustin Hoffman. Rain Man.
He looked familiar.
He's from Rain Man with Tom Cruise.
Which one?
Rain Man, where
I've never seen that movie.
No?
Never,
They
no.
dance in the rain.
So yeah, that's my description of it—a
Exactly.
coming of age story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But that's how the beginning felt, and then it
Well,
it
no,
got
because through
lost
the
for
whole
me.
movie, he's like confused about what he wants to do.
It's
and
like us right now.
Yeah.
Like,
What do you
everyone's
do
like, what
after
are you going to
college?
do?
Everyone's like, "Oh, what's next?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm just gonna hang out." And they're like, "No, your
Yeah.
entire life.
Yeah.
So-
You have your life planned. You graduated college, and yeah."
So the beginning, he like clearly graduates from college, and they're having a graduation party. It looks like,
Yeah.
and everybody's
A
asking him.
fucking nice one.
Yeah, a real nice. Well, it's the 60s, but they were like, "What are you doing with your life? Like, what's next?" And he was like, "I need to go. Like, I can't talk right now." And he was so
Anxiety.
nervous and has anxiety
Yeah.
and relatable as college students in this room. But it was interesting. And then, so Mrs. Robinson, which that's the name to be for.
Well, this is where it all started. When people say, "Oh, Mrs. Robinson,"
Yeah.
it comes
Mrs.
from this
Robinson.
movie.
Oh.
Yeah, it didn't happen before this.
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't
Like
know
the
that.
song "Mrs. Robinson" was made for this movie.
Oh, that's what I have a question about that. So, because it's Simon and Garfunkel did the track for this.
Yeah.
Is that when all these songs came out? Did they make these songs for this movie?
I think so, because when I was looking at it, the soundtrack was the Graduate soundtrack.
Yeah, Mrs. Robinson is like a staple name back
But
then.
Ariana said it's for this. That it came from this movie.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Throughout
Per
Older-
Wikipedia,
Per Wikipedia.
The Graduate is an album of songs from the soundtrack of Mike Nichols' movie The Graduate, from Simon and Garfunkel, released January 21st, 1968.
Yeah, so
it sounds like that's when it came out.
that's crazy.
But yeah, Mrs. Robinson was a staple name for wives who seduce young men.
Now it is because
Between 60s to 80s.
Yeah.
Like,
but you still see that like in isn't that a name? Did you guys ever watch 50 First Dates? 50 Shades of Grey? I'm pretty sure
I haven't seen it.
I'm pretty sure that's like the woman's name who
I think
seduces.
there's yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Mrs. Robinson, she's married to Mr. Robinson, and she's like, "Take me home," and it's so
we didn't
weird.
even the character's name. What's his name?
Ben
Bitch
that's
boy Ben.
which is Dustin Hoffman, takes her home, and she is like clearly trying to seduce him, and it's so weird the way they talk.
I love that her demands are, "Will you take me home?"
Yeah.
And when he's like, "Nah, I don't think it's a good idea," she goes, "Please."
Yeah.
And that's what she says.
And
that's
but
it.
like all their I know they're acting, but I wonder if that's how they truly talked back then, like how they were so quick to answer each other.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, it was so weird. They were talking, Mrs. Robinson and him, and she was like, oh, do you want to do this? He was like, no, I'm fine. And it was like their conversations were
I'm
so
sure
quick.
it was like a little looser because when I see not blooper reels but like behind the scenes with the old Star Wars movies, I know that it wasn't the same time, but they were
70s.
And I guess it's not the same type of movie, but they were always like laughing and having fun, like you see on like movie sets today. And I know it's not the same movie, but like the characters had like a serious plot to follow and were serious for most of the movie.
Well, I don't mean in a jokey way. I mean like if that's how they
like how the middle class talks to each other and the formalities, and you get someone a drink. And,
it was so weird to see how they talked like to each other. Yeah. And then he was like, oh, it's just kind of funny. It seems like you're seducing me. She was like, do you think I'm seducing you? And he's like, oh, I don't know. And then he's like, oh, I feel silly. And then she really is. Like, they go upstairs, she gets undressed. And then he just kind of falls for it.
The nude scenes back then, stupid.
Yeah, they're collages, though. Yeah, so you just see her head, and then...
You see her head, then you see Ben's head, then you see her head.
It's like a flash, though.
And then you see
her
like
boobs.
And that's it.
Like a frame of boob, and that's it.
But I wonder how scandalous that was.
Back then, yeah.
Well, it's not like a composite in the movie. Wait.
Well, yeah.
Was that a boob?
But still, like, you still...
Yeah, like, you could see it. So that probably was, like, for the 60s.
I mean...
Especially in a movie theater, in a public place where, like, everyone can go.
It definitely was.
Yeah. And then... Yeah, so Ariana, continue on. I feel like I've been talking.
I don't know. I just... The way that the movies... Because it's all shot from his perspective or from an outside perspective. Yeah. The cinematography in this movie
is like, crazy.
Yeah, and the timing too. Like at the beginning, whenever I watch these movies or I see other people watching, I'm like, is it too slow? Yeah. We're gonna fall asleep. This is a bad idea. But you get that timing and you get the silence. Yeah. Like I guess that's the whole point, the sound of silence.
The collage in it was so weird how they were so Ben ends up sleeping with Mrs. Robinson and they have an affair, and
how it goes from scene to scene.
So he would be in the pool and then he'd be laying in bed with Mrs. Robinson.
Time lapse.
But then the background would be the same. It'd zoom in on his face and then it'd zoom out and he's in a different
somewhere
place.
Else. And
he's in his house.
It was so cool. And I've never seen like a lot of movies do that. So I wonder if that was like the first of it. It was so different because I've never heard of this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So I'm wondering, like...
This is like a classic.
That's what I'm saying. It seems like a classic.
Well, this is why we have you here.
Exactly. But I wonder how popular it was. I wonder if this was too progressive for, like, the 60s. Like,
I don't think it was progressive.
Not too progressive, but too...
I'm sure there were plenty of stories of...
It's out there. But I don't know. Like, I see... I always wonder because you talk about like girls and modesty and sexism and stuff, and they're like, oh, don't show your shoulders, don't like have too much cleavage. But dresses in the 50s and 60s, they were pretty...
I think 50s is when it started to get more scandalous, and especially in Hollywood, because Hollywood was so big in the 50s.
Yeah.
And that's when Marilyn Monroe, that's when you saw her in a bra and underwear in the movies. So I think the 60s, it wasn't anything new. But it was very interesting. Like, it was definitely out there. And yeah, he's like nervous through it, but then
back to the coming of age thing, where like he doesn't know what to do with himself.
Yeah, everybody's asking, what are you gonna do?
She offers this path to him, and he's like, should I do it? Should I whatever? And eventually he's like, okay, sure, like this is how I'm gonna live my life. I'm gonna just keep sleeping with this older woman, or a family friend.
Well, right? His parents' friends.
It's his dad's business partner.
Yeah, but
wife.
He said he's known him since
he's known the family for his whole life, but
so family friend, essentially.
Sure, in our time, but it was just it slowly got so Ben's dad made him go out with Elaine. And
you're like,
okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
So the whole point, like they're having the argument and they're in bed. It's Ben and Mrs. Robinson, and she's like, "Don't go out with Elaine. Don't go out." And I've always watched that, and I'm like, that makes sense, but also why?
Why?
Why is it such a big deal?
I don't know if she's jealous. If the mom is jealous, Elaine is Mrs. Robinson's daughter. So I don't know if she's jealous, like, he's sleeping with me and I don't...
Yeah.
Maybe like she's jealous that she's younger and that sort of thing. But she made it very apparent, don't sleep with my daughter.
Well, the whole thing back then was like you meet someone at 21 and you get married, and that's just what it is, right?
Well,
because that's what it seemed like, at least. Because she got married like, I don't know, what is that, like 3 months later almost? Because they were sleeping for weeks, right?
There wasn't like a pressure to like, oh, you have to get married.
Yeah, it's not like a force.
We're like, oh, we need to be financially stable.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's just like, can you get married? Then get married.
So,
where did I leave off? Someone cut me off.
But Elaine, so I look at it, I'm like, in my gut, I'm like, oh, that makes sense that she wouldn't want it. Like it's somehow incestuous. But then I don't get it.
I don't think that's why, though. I think she was jealous. I don't think she cares that it's her daughter, and that's why.
So you don't think it's like something inherent in the situation?
Oh. Maybe it's because she knew that Ben would feel bad and tell Elaine eventually.
I don't think he would have. I think
I don't think he would have.
No?
It seems like we're skipping around a lot, but we're not. This movie's short.
So, yeah.
It's not a long movie at all, but what happens is graduates, proposal to sleep with the Miss Robinson, ends up sleeping with her for a few weeks, and then
a
few months, and Mr. Robinson is always suggesting throughout this whole time, you should call my daughter, Elaine. You should call her. And the whole time, he's, even at first, before they were even sleeping together,
he wanted her.
He didn't want to date her.
No, the dad wanted him to date. His daughter.
Ben didn't want to date her.
No, because he wanted to sleep with the mother.
I don't know. He was just confused about it.
I think that he knew that it was wrong.
Yeah,
he didn't want to do it because he knew it was wrong.
And then he was forced to by his
parents and Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, so they go on a date, but he already promised Mrs. Robinson, you said you wouldn't go out with my daughter, and so he went out with her, and he was like, I don't want, it's just because my parents made me to, we're gonna have dinner and that's it. And then he ended up liking her. Oh my god, he took her to this like
the strip club.
Essentially, yeah.
The boob tassels.
Oh my god, she had boob tassels on. Like she took off her shirt and then started going in a circle.
That was scandalous. What the fuck? That was the most scandalous.
Yes,
thing in the movie.
yes.
Not the.
It was so weird.
Not the frame of boob flash. Yeah. The what is it?
That was skill though. Like the way it was twirling around.
Skilled. Like bravo.
45 seconds of just twirling.
And she was like walking.
Yeah.
It's like hula hooping while you can walk.
Exactly.
You just got to keep the motion going. Her hands though.
Yeah.
Were
like so stiff because she was focusing. But
oh my god.
But it's so weird to see the emotions, how different they were in the 60s. Because if that happened to me,
I think it's the way it's filmed.
My complaint.
Yeah, maybe. I truly wonder if it's because they're acting or if it's because that's how they were in the 60s.
There was a lot of drama.
Yeah, but
like over dramatic, not just a lot of drama through the movie, but over dramatic.
Not explained emotions. Like she was sitting there, she was crying, and she didn't say anything, and then Elaine ran out because she's in a strip club. And
that's.
But if that was me, I'd be like, why the fuck are we here? Like I'd be like, why'd you take me here?
I think it's not. I don't know if it's about the 60s. It's just about this film in general and how it portrays emotions and how they get that across.
But I see like older movies too, and they're like that too, and I'm like.
I think it's something about like, well, our generation, we have to have everything said. Everything has to be explicit. There is no implicit messages. True. We can't have silence. We can't sit here awkwardly on this podcast, absorbing the time.
That's different. They can't see us, so if we just sat here.
I mean, like radio shows,
video
though.
Of static.
You can say that about radio shows.
Yeah,
like silence had more value then than it does now, and they took advantage of that. But you could, it spoke for it when she was sitting there crying with boob tassels going out behind her.
Yeah, that was so awkward. Why did she just go over her head and
it was tragic,
I think
though. That was so raw.
I think the stripper was like making fun of her because
I would.
That's fucked.
I mean, you're there for a show. Why not get it?
But so then they end up kissing, and I was like, why does she kiss him?
That's the other thing. Like I watched that before, and in the moment I was like, I get it.
Well, he was
like, it's an asshole, and you like assholes, whatever. But like, she was humiliated, and then 5 seconds later,
and she's like, he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just mad because I was, forced to do everything. Exactly. So she kisses him. I would have been like, okay, I don't care. You're an asshole to me, so bye. Like, It's so weird to me. And then they go out on a little date, and then they go out a different night.
Can we take a second to talk about those like side tray car table things for the drive-thru?
I'm pretty sure Sonic still has those.
No. Really? I've never seen one in my life.
I'm pretty sure if you ask for it. I mean, when was the last time you went to a Sonic?
I was like 14.
Exactly. I was like 12. So I'm pretty sure if you ask for it, you can get it. But
Reflect and regret field trip to Sonic.
Yeah.
But
where's the closest fucking Sonic?
There's one
Anaheim, I think.
in West Covina.
That's
really?
That's an hour drive.
That's like a 2-hour drive.
West Covina or Anaheim?
West Covina.
I was talking about Anaheim.
Anaheim is like a 2-hour drive too.
It's not too bad. I mean, we went at 6 a.m. Okay.
Anyway. But yeah, I wish we had those. Like
old school
I've
diner,
only been to Sonic
drive-in.
once. I heard they're like staple to go to because
In the East, yeah.
they have like
Their drinks, it's like $1 for like...
They have like a million options for milkshakes.
That's America.
And I'm like,
there.
America.
Wow, we are...
I don't think I even ate food there when I went.
I had a breakfast burrito.
Well, yeah, I was young,
and it was pretty good.
We were trying to get home from a camping trip, so I think we just stopped.
Hey, that's when I went.
Look at
Home
that.
for a different camping trip. But
Have I told you guys about my jalapeno shake Sonic story?
I'm sorry.
Terrible.
What?
So we went to Sonic. It was in Utah, I think. And I always want to get something that's different. I don't want to get like the usual shake flavors. And it said jalapeno chocolate. And I was thinking like, oh, spicy chocolate.
Yeah.
Not jalapenos, but like they'll be flavoring. They'll make it a little spicy. Like
That sounds like
eat it like the Aztecs do. But then I got it, and it's a chocolate shake with chunks of jalapenos inside. It wouldn't even go through the straw because the chunks were
Did you
so
drink it?
big. I tried, and then I almost puked and gave up.
Ew.
That sounds like
it was like the pickled jalapenos
milk.
too.
Ew. It's like what?
Jalapeno milk from Impractical Jokers.
Oh yeah.
What?
Have you seen that show?
No.
Oh my gosh,
Impractical
Ariana.
Jokers is funny. Okay, we're
It's
sidetracking.
Funny.
Off a sidetrack.
They basically have to make a pitch about jalapeno milk.
Oh my
to
gosh.
customers, and that's what it sounds like. Yeah.
I mean, it's like you get the spicy and the thing that takes away the spicy.
Yeah.
All at once.
Because they basically, have you heard of the show?
No.
They basically they're 4 best friends, and they have to try to like make each other lose by embarrassing each other. And whoever doesn't do what they say, they lose basically.
Yeah.
So they were like, you need to pitch jalapeno milk, and if nobody votes for it, then you get the thumbs down. So that's what he had to try to pitch. I think one guy like was like, okay.
Yeah.
I'll try.
So yeah, that date they had was pretty cool.
But anyway.
It was great sidetrack.
They like put up. They
Great
were in
segue back into it.
Yeah, true. They were in their car, their old school car, and then the car next to them was blaring music.
No,
So,
I think it was the.
no, it was the car
No,
next
it's the
to them.
car next to him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he like puts up his little convertible hood, and I was
Yeah,
like,
and you can just see
that's
them
so much
talking.
fun. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, it's not that wild, but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah,
it's
well,
pretty
back
cool.
then it was pretty cool.
But then like 2 hours, less than 2 hours, like an hour earlier, she was in a strip club.
Exactly.
Well,
They're just like sitting
'cause-
having a meal.
Well,
Yeah.
he apologized. Like, I get it.
I
get it.
don't
If he-
care if I'm going to be honest. If you took me to a strip club on our first date, I would be like, okay, this is going nowhere. I'm leaving. Putting you on the predator list.
But what if I apologized and I took you somewhere else for food?
Oh, I'd be like, I don't want to go. Please take me home.
Yeah, you would have.
Or I'd call an Uber.
You love food.
I mean, you're right. But yeah, so they go on, and then he picks her up for another date on a different night, and it's like raining really hard. And the mom, Mrs. Robinson, comes
We're
back.
skipping like some major
No,
things
that's
here.
what happens right after.
So
That's basically what happened.
well, so
That's what happens
when
after
he's
the-
sleeping with Mrs. Robinson, he goes to a hotel, and at the hotel, his name is Gold what?
He uses Goldstein.
No, it's Gladstone.
Gladstone.
Thank you,
he
Full
uses
House, for
he uses the name
making me remember
Gladstone because he doesn't want anyone to find out about his real name.
yeah.
And then
And so
people recognize him.
After the date, the first
Oh,
date,
that's right.
they go to the hotel to get a drink, and I think he was planning on like having
I don't
sex
think
with her.
because
No,
she was
no.
like, oh, that hotel has
Yeah.
a bar that's open right now.
And that's
Yeah.
the hotel he slept with her mom. So
he
that
was trying
remember
to avoid it.
he drove on the grass, and
Mhm.
she was like, "What is wrong?" And he's like, "Oh, nothing." Like, And so they go to the hotel, and he doesn't want to be there, clearly. He's like, oh, this place doesn't have a bar. Let's go. And everybody's like, hey, Mr. Gladstone.
Like, he's been there so many times that the whole night crew knows his name.
Yeah, and
so,
Elaine is like, I think they know you here. And he's like, no, they're mistaking me for Mr. Gladstone.
And that's when he tells her about
no, not yet.
Yes, he tells her about having an affair with someone, but not necessarily her
right.
mother. By the way, Mrs. Robinson is Elaine's mother. I think we said that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he tells Elaine that he's having an affair, but not with who. He just said he had an affair with someone else.
But she's fine with it.
It hadn't ended yet, though. And then she goes, is it done?
And he
thinks
yes.
about it, and he goes, yes.
So that's when it finished.
Well, it was done, though.
No.
Not really. Not until he said yes.
Even that at the beginning of the night, Mrs. Robinson was like, I'm mad at you. I'm furious.
And he was like, don't worry.
Yeah.
So it ended right when he said yes. And then she was like, okay. Elaine was like, all right, that's fine. And he said that it was with a married woman. And
yeah,
so if you were in a situation or you have like an amazing night with this guy who also happened to take you to a strip club and make you cry, do you think it would ever happen where you'd be like, yeah, okay,
all right, he had an affair. Yeah. He seems normal.
I would let him just plow me.
Plow me.
Just get over it, marry him, grow old together.
It was like 60s were wild. I don't know if that's the 60s.
I don't think it's the 60s. I think it's like right now, right here. If you guys weren't together and that happened to you,
I'd be like, good, bye.
He was so great.
No.
Wait, so if a girl took me to
he's not great though.
I would enjoy it.
You're a liar.
No, like, so it's something, not the strip club, but something equivalent where you were like humiliated to your core.
Well, that night we went to that comedy club together was kind of humiliating.
That was a hilarious humiliation, though.
Yeah.
No.
If she was pretty enough, if she was that pretty, yeah.
That's okay. First of all, don't.
Jenna.
That's horrible.
If she was that pretty, I would.
That's terrible.
So you'd be like a hard no.
Hard no. No. I'm personality all the way. If you're an asshole to me, goodbye.
I think.
Oh well, if she's an asshole, 100%.
But at the beginning of the night, she's an asshole, and then it turns around 360 degrees, and it's great.
It only took like 15.
You're eating hamburgers.
And then she's like,
took like
I'm
5
having
minutes.
an affair with a married man, and you would just be like, okay. Good to know. Thanks for heads up.
Yeah, if they stop.
Date tomorrow night.
But
9 o'clock.
She was in there for like a minute, not even. If I was humiliated,
that doesn't matter. He took her there.
I'm just saying.
I feel like it wouldn't be about looks for me, but I think so.
I'm not saying it's all about.
Also Dustin Hoffman, young Dustin Hoffman.
Yes.
Babe.
I hate his voice.
10. No,
it's weird.
They're all their voices are weird. It was like they have a weird voice in the 60s, but he was good.
Fuck, what was I saying? Cut me off.
Sorry, Elaine. The affair.
Oh, I'm not all about looks, but like I would hold out for the rest of the night.
I feel like if it was, I would be humiliated and I'd be pissed. But it's like that.
He apologized
horrible,
right
like,
after.
Oh, I'm attracted to assholes kind of thing, where it's like, yeah, he's an asshole for 1 second, but we had a really great conversation in the convertible with a hamburger.
But he wasn't an asshole for the rest of the time, though.
But
it's just holding out. That's the thing. Like,
okay, fine, but then. If he's like, I had an affair with a married woman, it's like, yeah, that's not my business, but like also it kind of is. We're on a date, and I feel like that's weird. Thank you for telling me.
I'd pass. I mean, I would.
But he had no choice to tell her because they went to the hotel. No, she asked.
He could have not said anything. That was the thing.
Elaine asked him, and she was like, oh, it's none of my business. But she was curious, obviously. So she obviously didn't mind, because if she did mind, then she wouldn't have asked and just been like, okay, we're done. Or she would have asked and then
she would have asked and then be like, you're a despicable human being, how could you have an affair?
Well, no, if she didn't ask, she wouldn't know. But like if she thought about it in her head and she thought enough that like, okay, he is having an affair, even if she didn't have any confirmation, then she would still make the choice. And even then, if he did tell her, she didn't have any expression of not wanting to be with him.
Well, yeah.
After
and then after all that, they go on another date. And it's raining, and Mrs. Robinson comes out into his car and was like, don't see my daughter again, or I'm going to tell her. He's like, you wouldn't do that. And she's like, oh, try me, bitch. And so he gets out of the car, runs to Elaine in her house, and is like, I got to tell you something. I had an affair with Mom. And
but that's the tragic thing. He never said anything.
He never said it, but the mom was like,
he goes, you know that woman?
Yeah.
And then you see her, because then later it turns out that she told her daughter, he raped me.
Yeah.
Can you
so
imagine
later,
that?
It's so
okay, wait, we're gonna get there. Hold on, because I have something to say about that. So anyway, so then what happens after that? That's it. And then he's like, so she goes to Berkeley.
Yeah.
And she was home, and now she's back at Berkeley, and she then goes out to his parents and is like, me and Elaine are gonna get married, and they're all cheering. They're like, oh my god, that's great. And he's like, let's call Mr. and Mrs. Robinson. And
well, hang on, you skipped that whole collage of like what's
you
going
just
down.
said that was it. I asked you what happened. Then go on.
Well, no, because it's the whole time lapse of him being devastated that he told Elaine that, because he actually liked Elaine. And I think all of his emotions throughout this movie are so rash.
He's a wreck.
Like, he just does not know what to do with himself.
He doesn't. I get he's 20, but my God, dude. Get it together.
So there's that scene in the beginning where he's in the scuba gear.
Oh,
and his parents are like, come out. He's like, Dad, I gotta talk to you. Come out. No, you gotta. And everybody's
just telling him what to do.
Because he's behind the door. You can't see him. And his dad's like, come on, you gotta come out. And he's like amping him up. And he's like, Dad, I don't want to. And they don't hear anything. Yeah. Like the entire first half of the movie, no one hears a single word that he says. You want bourbon? Oh, no, I'm a Scotch guy. And he pours him some bourbon. And then he comes out in this scuba gear. He's absolutely ridiculous. And you see it from his perspective. Mm-hmm. And everybody's voices are like muddled and you can't hear anything.
You can't hear anything.
And you see him drowning
at him.
But he's breathing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's if there was ever a metaphor feeling for how he felt.
Yeah.
That was like you're drowning and you can't even do anything about it.
Yeah.
But you're still breathing somehow. And it sucks.
Because that's what I think the whole movie was he wasn't able to do what he wanted to do until the very end.
Exactly.
And then I have something to say about that, about the end with him.
Yeah.
Not
so
his choices.
Yeah, it was like, and I did notice that, but I didn't piece that together. The Scotch and the bourbon. He kept saying, "Oh, I'll take a bourbon," and he kept pouring him Scotch. Like, you just tell him what to do.
So yeah, there's a time lapse of him being devastated that he told her that, or that she found out. And it's just him watching her from a distance, and then eventually she moves on to go to graduate school.
No, she hasn't graduated Berkeley yet.
Yeah,
so she goes back.
She goes back to Berkeley. She goes back to college, and he follows her there, and
That's what I was saying.
No. I was just saying you missed the time lapse between that, where he's just.
We have to talk
them.
about the time lapse.
What time? I don't remember the time lapse.
When she's like, he's spying on her from the bushes.
Yeah, he's like watching them from a distance and contemplating all of his
at the house.
decisions and regretting everything.
Okay, gotcha.
So now you can continue your spiel.
Thank you.
You may proceed.
So then he's like, hey, we're going to get married, and they want to call Elaine's parents, and Ben's like, no, that's not a good idea. And they're like, well, they know, right? And he's like, no. And they're like, well, does Elaine know? And he's like, no. But it was so weird because they were like, well, don't you guys need to talk about it? But I feel like nowadays, we talk about like, oh, in the future we're gonna get married, but he has to propose.
I think that so I've been watching Downton Abbey lately.
Okay.
And
never seen it.
It's like the British show about how
I've heard of it.
World War I. And so the proposals in that show, it's like, do you want to get married? I'll think about it. Okay, I want to get married. Okay, now we're going to get married. And then you're engaged. Like, there's no ring. There's no getting down on one knee. So that scene where he's like, did he get down on one knee? Talking about Elaine's other prospect. And he's like, oh, that's ridiculous. That's such a show. Because now it's like you have to make a show of it. But then it was like, you want to get married? Yeah, let's get married.
Yeah.
All right, Jenna,
and you're engaged.
Pass. So, I don't need a show.
I need to waste $5,000.
So... he goes to Berkeley to ask her to marry him, and he's basically just like following her around. And then, so
it's creepy.
So she goes to his room, and she's like, "You raped my mom," and he's like, "What? Absolutely not."
Well, before that, he finally talks to her.
Oh yeah, they go on the train together, huh?
A bus.
Whatever.
They go on a bus to a zoo, and she's meeting another date. But he's trying to talk to her about it. I'm terrible at
this. Okay, keep going. You keep going.
Yeah, she's going to a zoo to meet with another date, and He's just trying to talk to her and reconnect. He's not essentially asking her to marry him yet, but he is trying to get some kind of relationship back with her.
Yeah.
And trying to bond whatever pieces are left of.
But his goal is, I thought it was interesting because the whole movie he's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then
but
finally
he's like, I'm gonna
go marry her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then
and that was his choice.
Knows what he's gonna work towards.
Yeah. So, are we at the part where she says that?
Okay, yeah. Go for it.
But then you see that she's like dating this other guy. Anyway, so she goes to Ben's apartment, and she's like, you raped my mom. That's what she told me. And Ben's like, I absolutely did not. And that's really all he said. And then,
but he's saying, no, I didn't. I didn't. Yeah. That's from her perspective. And she's like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your crap.
So she screams, and the people in his house come and check, and she's fine. And then they're talking, and she's completely fine. She's like, I'm sorry I screamed. And they're, like, talking like they're okay. And I'm like, how did he really convince you? For all you know, maybe he did rape her.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, let's keep talking. Like I was
5 seconds ago, you're screaming at the top of your lungs.
Well, back then, like...
Oh, I don't care.
So I don't think this is anything to do with back then.
Yeah.
That's what's timeless about this movie.
Well, like, there's a lot of, like, word of mouth things, though, because we...
Oh, I don't think it could happen right now.
It was like later in the movie.
Someone was like, raped. Yeah. I heard you raped someone, and then he was just like, no, I didn't. They were like, oh, okay.
But I feel like I know people now who would be in that situation, be like, no, I don't want to hear any of it, and then they'd sit there and be like, yeah, I guess so.
But then they didn't even talk about it anymore.
But there's a lot of word of mouth things, like what later in the movie he said he's asking for a location. I won't spoil it now.
Well, I mean, like, spoilers. The details would be different. The details would be completely different. How far are we? Different. But
spoilers.
The premise of the movie, like, sleep with this older lady, and then you go out with her daughter. Like, the whole idea of, like, would you be okay with it? Yeah. How would you react? Would you get married? Would you not get married? That stuff, I don't think it has anything to do with the 60s or here. And part of it just because it's so progressive at that time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was just so weird to me that I like got mad, and then she was like, okay, I have to go. So she leaves. Yeah.
Oh, like I was saying, like word of mouth. Like when he was asking for a location from an operator, and he was like, oh, I'm going to that location and I'm meant to be there. And she's like, oh, okay. Like there was no like verification. There was no nothing. It's just saying, because everyone was considered an honest person back then. There were people to suspect that you did something wrong.
Yeah.
So I think that's why she was so... Like,
but still.
Like, he's never done anything to her to show that he's some
and
kind
also,
of rapist.
Women were perceived as, like, the weak ones, kind of. Like, they had to be apologetic or they had to be respectful towards the men. And I know it's not really about the times, but it was made during that time.
Yeah.
So, and rape wasn't a huge thing like it is now.
I think that the blame on the man in regards to rape was less.
Yeah.
It was harder to pin it on the man than it...
But Mrs. Robinson definitely throughout the whole movie, even though she was the wife, even though she was the mother, she was the one who commanded presence. And she only lost that to Elaine. She never lost that to another man.
Yeah. So yeah, then she's like, okay, I need to go. And she comes back in the morning or in the middle of the night, and he's sleeping and wakes him up, and that's when he's like, will you just marry me? Like, they just talk, and he's for like 5 seconds, and he's like, will you marry me? And she's like, I don't know.
Well, she said
that was so badass to me. I could never do that. Like,
well, she said,
I don't know.
She says,
kiss
no.
me.
Oh yeah, she said kiss me.
She walks in and she's like, kiss me.
And I would have been like, maybe you raped my mom. I would have not gone back there.
Yeah.
And then they kiss, and then and then she's like, I don't know. I have to think about it. And then she leaves. Like, she was only there for 5 seconds.
I think every woman should do that before getting married. Like, guy works his ass off to do this whole grand gesture, which only happens now. And it works his ass off to do this whole grand gesture, and she's like, I'll think about it. I want every woman to do that. Just be like, I'll think about it. I mean, you can be so in love with him, but just to show that you have dominance over that man, it's be like,
true. I think that's part of the thing. Like, men wanted to get married then. Now the whole talk is, I don't want to commit. I have a side bae. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. like they wanted to commit, they wanted to get married. It was assumed you'd have an affair afterwards. The men would.
Yeah. And then, so then Ben kind of follows her around and is like, well, have you thought about it? Have you thought about it? And they're talking, and that's when he asks, like, how did he, then they're in, like, watching a basketball game, the girls' basketball game, and he's like, so have you thought about it, like, marrying me? And she's like, well, I still don't know. I have to go see that guy that I saw before. And he's like, well, why? Huh?
At the zoo.
At the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
Carter.
like, well, why?
No.
Carter?
Was that his name?
Carter Smith?
He doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's...
Carter for now.
So he's like, why? And she's like, well, he asked me to marry him. And I'm like,
what?
what?
Screams.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe.
Like, what is happening right now?
So many guys on hold.
Yeah, and they're just like, she's like, I don't know. Let me think about my decision. Who I'm going to marry.
I want to sidetrack and say, this guy spent a lot of fucking money to move around.
Oh, I know. Those hotel rooms night after night.
Yeah.
I was looking it up while we were watching the movie, and apparently hotel rooms were like $14 a night.
But how much was wage?
I don't know, but he did just graduate, though.
He didn't have a job.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, he graduated from college, and did you see everyone there? And his parents gave him a car.
Yeah, they're
so
nice
I would think
middle class.
Yeah,
family.
I was thinking like his whole family and friends were, oh, here's like $20. Here's $20. Here's $20.
Yeah,
his parents were paying for everything.
Yeah, because even towards the end, when he's staying in Berkeley, in that house where he's like renting a room, and he's like, oh, well, I'll give you $20. I'm like, he didn't have a job. How does he have $20 to give to his tenant?
And $20 was a shit ton of, was a good amount of money.
Yeah.
It was it was enough to get you a night in a nice hotel room.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was so weird. Like, I just thought it was funny how she's like, well, someone else was going to marry them.
And that's not, my estimates are not based on hardcore facts. I just saw it on just compare it to a Reddit page.
Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The inflation calculator says $1 in 1960 was worth $8 now.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So it's 8 times the amount.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That makes a decent amount of sense. Hotels are like $160 now a night. Yeah. So yeah,
for like a high end.
Yeah. $100 is where I would go holiday.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to.
I go to like a $15 one.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, he was shelling out money, and the distances he was driving, and
he went to Berkeley. I don't know where they started at though.
Well, he went to Santa Barbara. Well, we can say he went from Santa Barbara or Berkeley to Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how far of a drive. That's pretty far, isn't it?
Where's
Berkeley?
Berkeley's like Northern California, right?
Yeah.
Also, the rain. It would never have rained that much in Southern California.
The way it was pouring, you could see in the corner outside of the car that it was sunny, and just where it was pouring.
Yeah, did you notice in the beginning when he took Mrs. Robinson home, it was nighttime, and then they go into like the bar area, and it looked like it was daylight out.
Really?
Did you see that? Yeah, in the back, you see all the plants in the backyard, and it looks broad daylight. And I was like, what? Where are we?
The sunlight was different in the 60s.
Nighttime was different.
It's just the times.
But yeah, so he goes to Berkeley, and then the dad, Mrs. Robinson, tells Mr. Robinson they're getting a divorce. But I wonder, did she just tell him that they had an affair, or did she say that he raped her?
That's what I was wondering too. I don't know.
Because remember, he was talking about pressing charges against him, but he didn't. So I feel like he would have pressed charges if he raped her, and they wouldn't get divorced either if he raped her. I feel like...
Right?
I mean...
I feel like they would get divorced, though.
Yeah.
Because it's like the woman's fault.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking. They might get divorced. But yeah, I think it's obvious that it was that she told him that they were having an affair.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was like...
Or he figured it out.
Yeah.
I hate how at the beginning he was like, oh, you gotta let loose.
Yeah.
Sow a few wild oats. Have a few flings.
Yeah,
and then he's like, also, my daughter's in town.
Right? I was like, wait, do you want him to just use your daughter for sex? Or...
Jenna, let's just sell off our daughter. Highest bidder.
So, yeah, the dad finds out... Ooh, I just turned Canadian there. Finds out that the whole affair and goes to Berkeley to Ben and was like, don't touch my daughter. Don't touch anybody. Like, leave us alone.
Like, you're a scum. You're disgusting.
You're dirty. Yeah. So
the whole spiel. Then
he goes to Berkeley to find Elaine, and she's gone to Santa Barbara to get married.
That was also when they were talking, and she's like, yeah, and he goes, oh, will you marry me tomorrow? And she's like, no, I won't marry you tomorrow. Will you marry me the day after?
I don't know. Maybe.
Like, that's crazy. Like, the time span.
And in the note, like, how sad is this? In the note that she left for Ben when she went to Santa Barbara, she was like, what did she say? She said I'm going to dad. Yeah, it's my dad. I love you, but
it would never work.
It would never work. Isn't that so sad? Like, I couldn't imagine my parents being like, you can't see him. Yeah. Especially when I'm an adult.
He fucked her mom.
No, I get that. But
and even times have if changed that happened, too.
I know. Like, I personally wouldn't marry the guy. But
because back then they could have a shotgun wedding.
I feel like my parents would never be able to tell me who to marry. Like, I can marry who I want. So, it's weird to me.
Yeah, he's going to Santa Barbara, and I feel like the whole drive there is just contemplating. Like,
okay, he's driving like 100 miles per hour because he wants to get to a lane, and he doesn't get pulled over once. And I'm like, wait, how does this add up?
Sidetrack. I got my first speeding ticket the other day.
Wow.
Ariana.
I was like, I felt kind of flattered.
Okay.
I've never had this happen to me.
Wait,
I got a ticket before you.
I was driving back from Utah in Vegas, and I usually drive in like the pack of cars, so I never get pulled over. And I'm driving, it's like right outside of Vegas. There's a bunch of cars. It's a 65 mile per hour zone. I'm going probably like 85, but there's like 5-10 cars around me in the 4 lanes going the same speed. And I see the people, like the cops at the top with their little like laser guns pointing it at the cars.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no. And I was like in my head, I'm like, there's no way they're going to get from the top of the bridge to the street to pull me over. I should be pretty safe. And then this like motorcycle comes out of nowhere and pulls me over. There's 5 cars lined up on the side and on the other side of the freeway because they pulled all of us over.
Oh,
all of us.
Was it like Elisa in the car with you, or was anybody in the car?
No, it was just me. He was really nice about it.
I could truly see. I don't know if you're. No, because you were in your mom's car.
No, I
never understood how they do that.
To our friend's thing.
Oh yeah.
So we're driving to, where was it?
Walnut concert. Yeah, Walnut. California.
So we're going to Walnut, and she's going like almost 90, but even when I drive, I barely push 80, and I feel like I'm still, Ariana. And I feel like I'm still like with everybody. Some people pass me up, and and Ariana's like, well, everybody goes 90, and I'm like, Ariana, and I can't believe you guys. I do believe it, but I can't believe it.
I've been so good. I've been driving since I'm like 16 17
probably.
It's been like 4 or 5 years.
If I get pulled over, I would just cry the whole time. Saying? I wouldn't be able to talk. I just cry.
What was I saying? You just cut me off.
I didn't cut you off.
Yeah, you did.
You cut you off.
She definitely did not cut you off.
Ha.
I was saying something.
She was talking about a speeding ticket.
Las Vegas police officers.
Oh, you said.
Oh, how do they pull over so many people at a time?
Yeah.
Were they just like, I don't
6
know.
Cops?
They had like a bunch of motorcycle officers. I think they were waiting right outside the bridges with the radio, waiting to hear clock the red Honda.
That whole herd over
85.
But they can't just have like 8 police officers on motorcycles just sitting off the sides.
But it was crazy. Like 1 second I was driving past the bridge. I had cars on every side of me. I looked around. Everyone was gone.
That's crazy.
And then there was a cop behind me. I'm like, oh my gosh, they got all of us.
That's insane.
It was crazy.
Yeah, I would just cry the whole entire time. Couldn't do it.
I did the same thing.
You didn't cry. I cried when you got pulled over.
Yeah. When I got pulled over.
I don't even have to get pulled over.
I thought I was abusing you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, really. He pulled us over. Well, he pulled Matt over. And I was already crying. I was crying. So he looks at me and he's like, are you okay, ma'am? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And he's like, are you sure? Because I'm crying.
Blink twice.
Like, clearly he thought Matt was abusing me.
Segueing back to, like, the movie, when she screams and the guy knocks on the door, what's happening? Oh, she just screamed, but she's all right. He's like, Are you sure? And then he just walks away.
Yeah. But do you see what I mean, though? It's
like,
the whole thing murdered. About the word of mouth, or just people thinking that.
Well, no, he had to kind of prove it by opening the door and showing her. Yeah.
But like, she could have had like a gun to her head or something. And
like, they were kind of hesitant. Mm-hmm. But what if something was happening and like, clearly they thought something was happening. Yeah. And Ben just gave a shitty explanation of like what was going on. I'm like, if that were me, I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry she screamed. Yeah. Like, I told her something that shocked her. Like, why is he just like, she's fine?
And there's no way he trusts him because he was like, get out. You have to get out by tomorrow.
So, like,
but that does go back to what I said.
Not very good.
Like, people back then
but he didn't believe him.
But still, people back then.
He was okay with her getting probably murdered. Yeah. Was what was happening.
He trusted... I forgot how I said it last time. Excuse me. He's prone to thinking that someone's a good person over
being... I don't think so.
I think so. Because I just feel like that's how it was back then. However, I'm not an expert on it.
I don't know. It was very weird. And then, so he goes to Santa Barbara and they're gonna... He goes to, like, the gas station and he calls... like the Elaine's fiance, basically her his dad's office to see where the wedding was, and he goes to the wedding. And it was funny, he stopped at the gas station and then the guy was like, don't you need gas? And he just kept driving and then he breaks down because he has no gas. So he just runs to the chapel.
That's what you get.
Yeah, exactly. So he gets in and there's like, he's on the second floor and they're on the first floor getting married, and there's a glass and he's like leaning on it and they kiss. He was like just late. And then he bangs and is calling her name. Mm-hmm. And then the guy's like, who is that? And Elaine's like kind of walking towards him and then just screams Ben. Yeah. And then she's very dramatic.
I think all female screaming back then was dramatic, like over.
Well, he was screaming too. He was like,
yeah, but he was through glass.
I think just all screaming back then was just terrible.
Yeah, it was like way over the top. But then she went to him, and the dad was, but she was trying to get to him, and he was trying to get to her, and the dad was like trying to stop him and stuff.
Yeah,
and I get it, but also like, your daughter wants it, so just leave it be. Like,
this is a big point. But at the end, they do end up together and they do run away and they hop on a bus and run away and they're sitting together at the end and you see their faces go from like happy and smiling like they just did something insane, something nobody they knew would ever do.
Yeah.
And they're smiling, they're all like adrenaline pumped up and happy. And then after like a minute,
they look
smiles
so
just go away.
Unhappy.
They're just like, what the fuck did we just do?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
That's the thing about, he's always getting talked over. Nobody's ever listened to him, and he's always just... You said it best.
No one's hearing what he's saying.
Yeah, exactly. So, no one's hearing what he's saying, so he's just kind of running off and doing all these impulsive things. Because
he wants to make his own decisions, and then he makes his own
decisions. Break out somehow.
And he just has like a...
And I think Elaine was the same way right there. When she was like, I'm being told to marry this guy. I'm being told not to date this guy. I'm being told all these things. I'm being force-fed all these things where I want to make my own decision. And you can see in their faces at the end that like, we made our own decisions, but the consequences of that, like, how do I know I love this guy? How do I know I love this girl?
Because they went on like one date.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. One date.
The entire time I'm thinking, because even at the end, like we're watching it and we see that he doesn't get there in time before they're actually married. And everyone thinks, oh no, I wish he had made it.
Yeah.
But they
it honestly would have been better off he didn't.
One date.
Like,
it was like, they went on one date, and I think it was just because that was the only decision that they can make for themselves. Like, every other thing, people were telling them how to live their life.
Which I think was the whole moral
That's
of that
the whole
movie.
point of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, they're just being told time after time
how to live their life.
Exactly.
You graduated, you don't know what you're doing, you're a kid. This is what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Or you should be having a plan.
I think part of it is you should have a plan, but I'm not going to tell you what your plan should be.
Mm-hmm.
I should tell you what you shouldn't do, but I'm not going to tell you what to do.
Yeah. And yeah, so it was so weird. Like, I didn't like the ending.
There were a lot of ups and downs, and I was upset at the ending, but I totally get it.
Yeah. I guess I like the ending. Let me rethink that.
Yeah, I totally get the ending, and it was definitely an eye-opener that if you're being told what to do time and time again, and you make these irrational decisions because you just want to do what your own voice is.
Yeah. I think you see that, like, with you when you go to Utah and you see all the bunch of, like, repressed Mormons, and you see the people who break out of that.
Yeah.
People go so extreme.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to break away from this institution, not, like, necessarily people. And they're like, I need to express myself by doing X, Y, and Z. But if, like, they were in California, them expressing themselves would maybe be like, oh, look at my nice tattoo.
Yeah, and I think that's where, like, watching this movie was so different. I mean, they were in California, but yeah, obviously they were in the 60s. But, like, I grew up in my family where I can make my own decisions, like, and nobody would question it. I lived my own life, and even when I was younger, like, my parents knew that I needed to make my own decisions. So I thought it was, so I never had, like, a point where I was like, I need to make my own decision. I'm going to be very extreme and do crazy things and impulsive. So yeah, it's like, it was cool to watch this movie, but it's hard for me to connect to it because and, like, understand it without thinking that, oh, it's just a movie, like, it's just imaginative, it's not real, but people do feel like that. It's crazy.
So that was a good movie all around. I mean, I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was amazing.
I thought it was really good. I thought it was a good staple movie.
Yeah, there's a reason why it's a classic.
Yeah.
Because it set the stage for everything else.
Yeah.
That we see in cinema.
Yeah, it was great. I really liked it.
Also, the soundtrack. I love the soundtrack.
I like
a lot of those songs were inappropriate. Like, hello, darkness, my old friend.
That song, though, every time you would say that, I wanted to say something to you. But I'm like, wait till we're recording.
Yeah.
Because the whole point is the sound of silence.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the sound of the uncomfortableness. It's at the very end. They're not saying a single word. It's just the camera on their faces. And it's the sound. It's the message that's being conveyed by absolutely nothing.
Yeah. They also played Hello Darkness, My Old Friend 3 times. I was like, what? Yeah.
They play, like, Scarborough Fair, like, 4 times.
I was like, what is happening? Do you guys have any other songs? Or
I think it sets up a theme, though.
Huh, Matt?
Very diverse.
Very diverse.
Yeah.
Diverse what?
Soundtrack. But it was, I really truly like this movie. But good pick, Ariana.
Thank you.
You know, I doubted it, but good pick. I'm glad we went with it.
Yeah, it was definitely something that everyone should watch.
Yeah.
And it aged pretty well.
Yeah. No. It's like The Breakfast Club or like any other. Yeah, it's a classic.
It's just
it ages well. That's a perfect description for classic. Ages well, like Pretty Woman. Like, come on.
I've never seen that.
Okay, I used to be in that boat, Ariana, and then I saw it was on TV, and I just clicked it. It's very good. You haven't seen it either?
Nope.
We gotta watch it all together.
So Jenna's vote is Pretty Woman.
No,
for the
it's
next
not.
Movie.
It's actually not. It is great. Maybe it should be.
I want Ruby Sparks.
I was gonna think that too.
Is that a movie?
Yes. Well,
what is that?
Ariana, with this podcast, you would love this movie. Now,
I think you would like it.
I think you would. I don't want to, like, say that and then you hate it.
Matt is pointing to a DVD. I need to get it.
It says Ruby Sparks.
Right there.
And so that's Matt's. I think I would like to say Ratatouille, but I think I'm going to change it to...
Jenna's just in the same boat with me on Ruby Sparks.
I don't know.
I don't, like, I feel like the sitcom-y kind of movies, like, I appreciate
That's not a sitcom.
them.
It's not a sitcom.
But it's like...
It's not what you expect.
Okay.
It is not.
I'm looking at a picture of a guy with a girl over his shoulder.
Yeah, it is not.
It looks like
a rom-com.
Yeah, it does.
It's not what you expect. It's wild. Okay, so that's a good one. I'm just so I have one. I'm gonna say Grease.
Wait. Before we debate on the other thing, we need to rate it.
Oh, that's right.
Oh.
Out of what?
Out of 10
chevrons.
10 chevrons.
10 sounds of silence.
10 sounds.
I give it 6.
6 what?
7.
7 sounds of silence or 7 chevrons? It makes a big difference. 7 sounds of silence.
Okay. I give it 8 sounds of silence and 9 chevrons.
Why are you having 2 ratings to it? This
They're
isn't
different.
Rotten Tomatoes.
They are very I'd say like 9 sounds of silence, but only like 6 or 7 chevrons.
Okay. See, we were on the opposite.
What's the? Oh my god!
I respect it.
All right. I'm Matthew.
Wait.
No. What are we gonna watch next time?
Oh, Ruby Sparks.
Right? No, wait.
No.
We have to. No. We have to say.
I have other suggestions.
So Matt is Ruby Sparks. I'm gonna say Grease just because I see it and I love that movie, and I think it's like based on the 50s.
I say Fences.
What the fuck are these movies?
That's the one with what's his name, right?
It's a Broadway play.
Okay.
They turned it into a movie with Viola Davis. I weeped.
Say his name. What's his name?
Oh shoot, I forget his name.
He's very Denzel Washington.
Yes.
Denzel Washington. I wanted to watch that too.
I know Viola Davis.
I'm sticking with Ruby Sparks though.
She's in How to Get Away with Murder. She's a professor.
Oh, I've never seen that. Shoot. Ruby I think Sparks. I'm gonna have to go with Ruby Sparks. I think you would really like
Ariana type of movie.
It really is.
And
no,
I'm gonna hold you guys to this.
Don't even look it up because I want you to be like how we were for Spirited Away, just completely in shock. It's not really shocking, but
it's shocking.
It's very out there, and it's a very cool.
Which ruins the movie because you're like wondering what a twist is.
It's a very very cool premise.
Yeah.
Oh, I know Viola Davis.
Okay, I'll give in.
All right.
I mean,
it better be good though.
It will.
No, it's good.
You won't be disappointed.
It's crazy. Like,
yeah,
there's some aspects where it's romantic, not so much comedy, but
that's funny stuff.
In a way, the way it's romantic is fucking weird. Like, you'll see. You'll see. I would compare it to something like Her.
I want to see that.
I want to see that. That's a good movie too.
I haven't seen it.
That's a good movie too.
But I know the premise, so I would.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So Ruby Sparks is next time.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks for listening, and join us next time for Ruby Sparks.
By the way,
we'll see you, Matt and Jenna, right?